I'm Rymeyer, an attorney with Catholic Charities, Archdiocese of Dubuque, Immigration Legal Services. I and all of us at Catholic Charities, Archdiocese of Dubuque, support, welcome, and value immigrants in our community. We generally oppose any action taken to try to stop immigrants from legally joining us here in the United States. This video is about the April Proclamation suspending entry of some immigrants to the United States. I'm not going to talk about whether it's right or wrong, or whether and what kind of impact it may have on our communities. Today, I'm just going to talk about what it is and to whom it applies, and whether there are any exceptions. This proclamation, called the Proclamation Suspending Entry of Immigrants Who Present Risk to the U.S. Labor Market During the Economic Recovery Following the COVID-19 Outbreak, this proclamation went into effect on Thursday, April 23rd, 2020, at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm going to refer to the effective date several times. That is the effective date, April 23rd at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. This is who the proclamation applies to. There's three characteristics. First of all, the person has to be outside the United States on the effective date of the proclamation. The person did not or does not have a valid immigrant visa on that effective date or thereafter, and does not have a valid official travel document on the effective date or issued at any date thereafter that permits travel to the United States seeking entry or admission. Those three characteristics are to whom this proclamation applies. Even if all three of those characteristics are present, there are exemptions. First of all, lawful permanent residents are exempted from this proclamation. Individuals and their spouses or children who are seeking to enter the United States on an immigrant visa as a physician, nurse, or other healthcare professional to help fight the spread of COVID-19 are also exempted from this proclamation. People who are applying for a visa to enter the United States pursuant to the EB-5 Immigrant Investor Visa Program are also exempted. Spouses of U.S. citizens are exempt from the proclamation. Children of U.S. citizens under the age of 21 and prospective adoptees seeking to enter on an IR-4 or IH-4 visa are also exempted. Some individuals who are participating in law enforcement investigations are also exempted. This one's a little bit more complicated. Generally, it has to be determined whether you're helpful to an investigation by the Secretary of DHS and the Secretary of State, or if you have a recommendation from an Attorney General. But if you're complying with some kind of investigation, you're outside the United States and otherwise affected by this proclamation, you are exempt. Members of the U.S. Armed Forces and their spouses and their children are exempt from this proclamation. Immigrants and their spouses or children who are eligible for special immigrant visas as an Afghan or Iraq translator or interpreter or U.S. government employee are also exempt. And finally, individuals whose entry would be in the national interest are exempt. That one's similar to the law enforcement participation exemption. It's a little bit more complicated. It would have to be determined by the Secretary of State and the Secretary of Department of Homeland Security to qualify for that. But there are many exceptions. Non-immigrant visa holders are not included in the proclamation. That's a certain type of legal definition, but if you have a non-immigrant visa and you know that, you're not included in the proclamation. However, the proclamation requires that within 30 days of the effective date, the Secretary of Labor and Department of Homeland Security in consultation with the Secretary of State, will review non-immigrant programs and make a recommendation about appropriate measures to stimulate the U.S. economy. So if you're a non-immigrant visa holder, um, anticipate that there will be some review, but you are not included in this proclamation. Asylum seekers are not included in the ban. The proclamation states that it does not limit the ability of individuals to apply for asylum, refugee status, withholding of removal, or protection under the Convention Against Torture. Uh, my notes here say to remind you that individuals who circumvent the application of this proclamation through fraud, willful misrepresentation, or illegal entry will be prioritized for removal. So, of course, as always, obey the law, obey this proclamation. As I said, this video is only to determine to help you determine who this applies to and whether there's an exemption. Also note that this proclamation expires 60 days from its effective date. It may be continued as necessary. Within 50 days of the effective date, the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security shall, in consultation with the Secretaries of State and Labor, make a recommendation whether the President should continue or modify the proclamation. But for now, 60 days out from April 23rd, 2020, this proclamation will end. And if any provision of the proclamation or the application of any provision to any person or circumstance is later held to be invalid, the remainder of the proclamation shall not be affected. So this is just your update today on what the proclamation suspending entry of immigrants to the United States, what it is, and to whom it applies, and what exceptions there are, and for how long it applies. So if you have any concerns about whether it applies to you, please review this video and see if you meet the 3 characteristics that you're outside of the United States on or after April 23rd and didn't have a valid immigration visa on that date and do not have a valid official travel document on that date or during the 60-day period that this proclamation is in effect. If those 3 things apply to you, then the proclamation applies to you. And if you are any of the exempted categories that I discussed, then it does not apply to you. Hopefully this update was helpful to you, and please check back at our Catholic Charities Archdiocese of Dubuque website at catholiccharitiesdubuque.org for other updates. Thank you.